My name is Myra Whitmore. I am 34 years old, a cardiology resident, and a single mother of 3-year-old twins. 2 months ago, I was lying in an emergency room, bleeding internally after a car accident. My hands were shaking as I dialed my parents' number. I needed anyone, to watch Lily and Lucas for just a few hours while doctors tried to save my life. What I got instead was a text message in our family group chat: "You've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Vanessa tonight. Figure it out yourself." So I did. From my hospital bed, I called a nanny service, paid triple the rate, and made a decision that would change everything. I cut them off completely. The monthly mortgage payments, the health insurance, the car repairs, everything I had been quietly paying for the past 8 years, gone. 2 weeks later, there was a knock on my door. Growing up in the Carver household, I learned early that love came with a ranking system. My older sister Vanessa was the star, always had been. She was 3 years older, effortlessly beautiful, and had this magnetic quality that made our parents light up whenever she walked into a room. When she announced she wanted to pursue fashion design, Mom cried happy tears. Dad called her their little visionary. When I said I wanted to become a doctor, Dad nodded and said, "That's practical." That was it. Just practical. I buried myself in textbooks, aced every exam, and clawed my way into one of the top medical schools in the country. For years of undergrad, for years of medical school, 3 years of residency specializing in cardiology. The day I graduated from medical school, my parents arrived 2 hours late. "Sorry, sweetheart," Mom said, not quite meeting my eyes. Vanessa had an emergency meeting with a potential investor. We had to drop her off first. No flowers, no celebration dinner. Just a quick photo in the parking lot before they rushed off because Vanessa needed emotional support after her meeting. Compare that to Vanessa's first fashion show 3 years earlier. The whole family flew to New York, 5-star hotel, front row seats. Dad posted 17 photos on Facebook with captions like, "So proud of our talented girl." I got a parking lot photo and a lukewarm "Congrats, honey." I told myself it made sense. Fashion is competitive. Vanessa needed more support. Medicine is stable. I could handle things on my own. But what I did not know then was that my parents' favoritism was not just emotional. It was financial. And I was the one footing the bill. It started 8 years ago, right after I finished medical school. Dad called one evening, his voice tight with embarrassment. "Myra, we're in a bit of a bind. The mortgage payment is due and things are tight this month. Could you help us out just this once?" I transferred $2,400 that night without hesitation. They were my parents. Of course I would help. But just this once became every month. The mortgage, then their health insurance premiums at $800 monthly when Dad's company dropped their coverage, then the emergencies, the car repairs, the roof leak, the new furnace. I never said no, not once. When I got pregnant with the twins and their father walked out during my 5th month, I called my parents from the hospital after a scary bleeding episode. I was terrified, alone, desperate for support. "Oh, honey, we wish we could come," Mom said, "but Vanessa is so stressed after her show in Milan. She really needs us right now." They didn't come. Not for the birth, not for the first month when I was barely sleeping, nursing 2 newborns while studying for my board exams. But the automatic transfers kept going out. $2,400 for the mortgage, $800 for insurance, whatever else they needed. I kept a spreadsheet. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me needed to see it in black and white. 8 years. $320,000, give or take. I never asked for gratitude. I never expected a parade. But I also never expected to be called a burden by the people I had been caring for almost a decade. The accident happened on a Tuesday evening. I was driving home after a 16-hour shift. The light turned green. I pulled into the intersection. I never saw the truck. It ran the red light doing 50 miles an hour. The impact hit my driver's side door. Glass exploded. Metal screamed. The world spun, then went black. I woke up in an ambulance, pain searing through my abdomen. A familiar face hovered above me. Marcus Smith, emergency physician at my hospital. We had worked together for 2 years. Myra, can you hear me? What's happening? You were in an accident. Possible internal bleeding. You're going to need surgery. Surgery. The word hit me like a second collision. My kids. Lily and Lucas. They're with the babysitter. She leaves at 8. Marcus checked his watch. It's 7:15. 45 minutes. I had 45 minutes to find someone to watch my children while doctors cut me open. I fumbled for my phone with shaking hands. Blood smeared across the screen as I pulled up my parents' number. It rang 4 times. Myra. Dad's voice was impatient. We're about to leave. What is it? Dad, I need help. I was in an accident. I'm being taken to the hospital. Surgery. Please, I need you and Mom to watch the twins, just for a few hours. Silence. Then muffled voices. My mother's tone, sharp and annoyed. Vanessa's laugh in the background. Then my phone buzzed with a text notification. Family group chat. The message was from my mother. Myra, you've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Vanessa tonight. We've been planning this for months. Figure it out yourself. I read it twice, 3 times. The words didn't change. A second message appeared from Dad. You're a doctor. You're used to hospitals. Don't make this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. Then Vanessa. Not words. Just a laughing emoji. That was it. That was all I was worth to them. A laughing emoji while I lay bleeding in an ambulance. Marcus was watching me. He could see my screen. Myra. What did they say? I couldn't answer. Something had cracked open inside me, and it wasn't just the internal bleeding. I need a phone, I whispered. Mine's dying. He handed me his without question. I Googled emergency nanny services, found one with 24-hour availability, called, and explained the situation in clipped professional sentences. Yes, I would pay triple the rate. Yes, I authorized payment immediately. It was done in 4 minutes. Can you screenshot those messages? I asked. From my phone, before it dies. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I can do that. I closed my eyes as the ambulance pulled into the hospital bay. The pain was overwhelming, but it wasn't coming from my abdomen anymore. The surgery took 4 hours. Ruptured spleen, internal bleeding. Another few minutes, and I might not have made it. I spent 5 days in the hospital. Not one call from my parents, not one text, not one visit. The emergency nanny service was expensive but worth every penny. They coordinated with my regular sitter, kept Lily and Lucas safe and fed, sent me daily photo updates. Strangers took better care of my situation than my own family. On day 3, I asked the nurse for my laptop. Are you sure you're up for it? You should be resting. I need to take care of something. My hands were steady as I logged into my banking app. 8 years of automatic transfers stared back at me. Regular as clockwork. I canceled them all. Then I blocked my father's number, my mother's, and Vanessa's. There was no dramatic moment, no tears, no second guessing. It felt like setting down a weight I had been carrying so long I had forgotten it was there. Marcus stopped by later that afternoon. He had checked on me every day, bringing coffee and quiet company. How are you feeling? He asked. I looked up at him, and for the first time in years, I told the truth. Better. For the first time in 8 years, I actually feel better. 2 weeks after my surgery, I was finally home, moving slowly, still sore, but alive. It was a Saturday morning. I was making pancakes for Lily and Lucas. Lucas was trying to stack his toy blocks. Lily was helping by knocking them down. Then came 3 sharp raps on my front door. I looked through the peephole, and my breath caught. Standing on my doorstep was a tall man in his 70s. Silver hair, neatly combed, sharp blue eyes that I remembered from childhood. A posture that still carried the authority of 40 years on the federal bench. Grandpa Thomas. I hadn't seen him in almost 3 years. My parents always had excuses for why we couldn't visit. I opened the door and he pulled me into a hug so tight it made my surgical incision ache. Myra. Let me look at you. He pulled back, his eyes scanning my face, then dropping to where my hand rested protectively over my abdomen. I know everything, he said quietly. Eleanor told me. Aunt Eleanor, my mother's younger sister, the only person in the family who had ever openly questioned how my parents treated me. Grandpa, I don't. He held up a hand. You don't need to explain anything. But I do need you to come somewhere with me. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a cream-colored envelope. An invitation. My 70th birthday party, next Saturday. The whole family will be there. His eyes met mine. And I have some things that need to be said. Grandpa Thomas sat at my kitchen table, watching Lily and Lucas with a soft smile while I set down 2 cups of coffee. Eleanor called me the night it happened, he said. She'd heard through one of your cousins. When she told me what your parents did, he stopped, jaw tightening. I've watched this for years, Myra. The way Helen and Richard treat you versus Vanessa. I'm old, but I'm not blind. I thought maybe I was imagining it, making it bigger than it was. You weren't. His voice carried the weight of a man who had spent decades separating truth from lies. I was a federal judge for 40 years. I know what favoritism looks like. I know what exploitation looks like. He leaned forward. Tell me something. Do you still have records of the money you sent them? Every transfer. 8 years. Good. I want you to put together a summary. Every payment, every date, every amount. Why? Because at my birthday party, in front of the entire family, the truth is going to come out. His eyes were steel. Not as an attack, not as revenge. Simply as facts. And facts, as I learned in 40 years on the bench, have a way of speaking for themselves. My hands trembled around my mug. What if they hate me? The ones who matter won't. He reached across and squeezed my hand. And the ones who do never deserved you. The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. I printed every bank statement, every transfer confirmation, 8 years of financial records organized chronologically and bound in a plain manila folder. Looking at it all together was staggering. Month after month, year after year, a river of money flowing in one direction. Aunt Eleanor came over 3 days before the party. She was 55, sharp-tongued, and had always been the black sheep of the family for refusing to pretend everything was fine. She flipped through the folder, her expression darkening with each page. $364,000, she said flatly. Myra, do you understand what this says? I know. This is more than most people make in 7 years of full-time work. She set down the folder. And they called you a burden. I don't want to destroy the family, Aunt Eleanor. I just want them to see, to acknowledge what I've done. You're not destroying anything. You're just stopping the lie. They built their comfortable life on your silence. You're not obligated to keep giving them that. That evening, I got a text from a cousin I barely spoke to. Heard you and your parents had a falling out. Vanessa's been telling everyone you've been acting erratic since your accident. Just wanted to give you a heads up. They were already spinning the narrative, painting me as unstable, preparing their defense before I even arrived. I hadn't wanted a fight, but it seemed they were bringing one anyway. Grandpa Thomas's house was a colonial estate on 3 acres of manicured land. White columns, wrap-around porch, the kind of place that whispered old money and quiet authority. I pulled into the circular driveway with Lily and Lucas chattering about the big house and the balloons they could see through the windows. More than 40 cars lined the property. I wore a simple navy dress, professional, understated. I wasn't here to make a scene. I was here to tell the truth. Inside, the party was already in full swing. Waiters circulated with champagne. A string quartet played in the corner. Crystal and silver glinted under the chandelier light. I spotted my parents immediately. Dad in his best suit, looking distinguished. Mom in a cream-colored dress, laughing at something someone said. They saw me at the same moment. Mom's laugh died. Dad's face went rigid. Then Vanessa appeared, gliding over in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly student loan payment. Her smile was perfect. Her eyes were ice. Oh, Myra. You made it. We heard about your accident. Nothing too serious, I hope. A ruptured spleen and internal bleeding. I almost died. Her smile flickered. Mom said it was just a fender bender. Mom wasn't there. I shifted Lucas to my other hip. None of you were. She patted my arm with false sympathy and drifted away. The attack came 30 minutes into the party. I was getting fruit punch for the twins when I heard Vanessa's voice, deliberately loud, carrying across the room. I'm so worried about Myra, honestly. The accident really affected her. She's been saying the strangest things. Cut off all contact with Mom and Dad for no reason. Mom joined in, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. We've tried everything. Calls, texts, she won't respond. I think she's having some kind of breakdown. She's always been the sensitive one, Vanessa added. I think the stress of being a single mom has just been too much. I said nothing. Just handed Lucas his juice cup and smoothed Lily's hair. Aunt Eleanor appeared at my side, her voice low and furious. They've been laying groundwork all week, calling relatives, planting seeds. They know something's coming and they're trying to discredit you first. I looked across the room at my grandfather. He was watching the scene with an unreadable expression, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He gave me the smallest nod. Let them talk, I said. The room quieted suddenly. Someone clinked a glass. Grandpa Thomas rose from his chair. At 70, he still commanded attention like the courtroom judge he had been for 4 decades. Before we continue with the festivities, I have a few things I'd like to say. Before Grandpa could continue, my father stepped forward. Dad, wait. His voice was controlled, but I could see the tension in his jaw. He turned to face the room. As many of you may have heard, my daughter Myra has been going through a difficult time. After her accident, she's been confused, distant. She's cut off contact with her mother and me completely. Mom stepped up beside him, still clutching that handkerchief. We've only ever wanted the best for her. But she's been spreading terrible lies about us, saying we abandoned her, that we don't love her. The room was silent. I felt 40 pairs of eyes boring into me. We gave that girl everything, Dad continued. Everything. She's even been claiming we refused to help her during her accident, Vanessa added from across the room. There must be some kind of misunderstanding. An aunt I barely knew approached me. Honey, is everything okay? Your parents are so worried about you. I opened my mouth to respond, but then Grandpa Thomas's voice cut through the room like a gavel. Are you finished, Richard? The question was quiet, but every person in that room heard the steel underneath. Dad's confident expression faltered. The family should know the truth, Grandpa said. And I intend to give it to them. He walked to the center of the room, his gait measured and deliberate. The walk of a man who had presided over hundreds of cases and never once lost control of his courtroom. I've listened to your concerns, Richard. Helen, Vanessa, you've painted a very clear picture of a troubled young woman who's turned against her loving family. He paused, letting the words hang. Now I'd like to ask some questions. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Dad, I don't think this is the place. This is exactly the place. This is family, and families should know the truth about each other. He turned to my father. Richard, a simple question. Who has been paying the mortgage on your house for the past 8 years? The color drained from Dad's face. What? Your mortgage. $2,400 a month for 8 years. Who's been paying it? We. Dad's eyes darted to Mom. We pay our own mortgage. Do you? Grandpa reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out my folder. Because I have here a complete record of bank transfers from Myra's account to your mortgage company every month for 96 consecutive months. A murmur rippled through the room. That's a misunderstanding, Mom stammered. Myra offered. We never asked. I'm not suggesting you held a gun to her head, Grandpa said calmly. I'm simply establishing facts. Let me share some numbers with the family. Across the room, Vanessa had gone pale. Dad's hands were clenched at his sides. Mom looked like she might faint. 8 years. Let's break it down. The room was utterly silent. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. Mortgage payments, $230,400. That's the house Richard and Helen live in, the house they claim they pay for themselves. Someone gasped. Health insurance premiums, $76,800. When Richard's company dropped their coverage, Myra picked up the bill. Car repairs, home maintenance, emergency expenses, approximately $45,000. Cash gifts and financial support for Vanessa's fashion ventures, $12,000. He closed the folder. Total, $364,200, give or take. The silence was deafening. Aunt Eleanor stepped forward. For context, everyone, that's more than most people make in 7 years of full-time work. Myra did this while completing her medical residency and raising infant twins alone. She offered, Mom's voice cracked. We never forced her. No one said you forced her, Grandpa replied. But I am curious. In 8 years of receiving this support, how many times did you say thank you? No answer. How many times did you visit her in the hospital after her twins were born? Still nothing. How many times did you show up for her? My mother started crying. Not the delicate, sympathetic tears from earlier. Real, ugly sobs. She never complained, Dad said, his voice hollow. She always managed. She managed, Grandpa repeated, because she had to. Because you taught her that her needs didn't matter. An uncle near the back shook his head. Jesus, Richard. $364,000, and you called her a burden. Dad flinched like he had been struck. There's one more thing the family should hear. Grandpa pulled out his phone, adjusting his reading glasses. 2 months ago, Myra was in a car accident, a serious one. She was bleeding internally and being rushed to emergency surgery. From the ambulance, she called her parents. Her children were home with a babysitter who was about to leave. She needed someone to watch them for a few hours. He paused, looking directly at my parents. This is the text message she received in response. From Helen. He cleared his throat. Myra, you've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Vanessa tonight. Figure it out yourself. The room erupted. Oh my God, someone breathed. That's not you're taking it out of context, Vanessa said desperately. There is no context, Aunt Eleanor snapped, that makes abandoning your daughter during a medical emergency acceptable. We didn't know it was serious, Dad shouted. Did you ask? Grandpa's voice cut through the chaos. Did you call her back? Did you come to the hospital? Silence. The answer, for those wondering, is no, no, and no. A woman I recognized as a distant cousin stepped away from my parents, her face twisted with disgust. Several others followed. My mother was sobbing uncontrollably now. I didn't mean it like that. I was frustrated. I didn't think. You didn't think your daughter might die, Grandpa finished. Because you never thought about her at all. He turned to face the room. I'm not asking anyone to pass judgment. I'm simply presenting facts. What you do with them is your own choice. He looked at me finally, his eyes soft. Myra, is there anything you'd like to say? I hadn't planned to speak. I had come here expecting the facts to speak for themselves while I stood silently in vindication. But looking around the room at my crying mother, my shell-shocked father, my sister's crumbling facade, I realized I had something to say after all. I handed Lucas to Aunt Eleanor and stepped forward. I didn't come here for revenge. I came here because for 34 years, I've been living with a version of my family that wasn't real. A version where I was the strong one, the reliable one, the one who didn't need anything. I looked at my parents. I believed you when you said Vanessa needed more support because her industry was harder. I believed you when you said I could handle things on my own. I tried to be what you needed me to be. A tear slid down my cheek, but I didn't wipe it away. But that night in the ambulance, bleeding and terrified, I finally understood. I wasn't strong to you. I was convenient. I wasn't reliable. I was exploitable. And no matter how much I gave, it would never be enough to make you see me the way you see her. Several family members had moved closer to me. An aunt touched my arm. A cousin nodded with tears in his eyes. My father started to speak. Myra, I'm not finished. He stopped. I don't hate you, I said quietly. But I can't keep pretending this is okay. I can't keep buying love that should have been free. An uncle across the room turned to my father. How could you, Richard? This whole time you've been living off your daughter while treating her like nothing. So what now? Dad's voice was desperate. You've humiliated us in front of the whole family. Are you happy? I shook my head slowly. I'm not happy, Dad. None of this makes me happy. But I'm also not sorry. Because this isn't about humiliation. It's about honesty. For the first time in 8 years, our family knows the truth. Vanessa tried once more. This is ridiculous. We're your family. Families help each other. You're right, I turned to face her. Families do help each other. So where were you when I was pregnant and alone? Where were you when I was raising newborns while studying for boards? Where were you when I was bleeding out in an ambulance? She had no answer. I looked back at my parents. From now on, I won't be sending money. Not because I can't afford it, but because financial support should be a gift, not an obligation. And it should flow both ways in a family that actually cares about each other. My mother reached toward me. Myra, please. I'm not cutting you off forever, I continued. But I need real space. Not a few weeks of guilt-tripping followed by everything going back to normal. I need you to actually think about what you've done. And if someday you can acknowledge it, really acknowledge it, maybe we can rebuild something. I took Lucas back from Aunt Eleanor. But I won't hold my breath. My parents left the party early. No one stopped them. No one said goodbye. Dad helped Mom to the car while she sobbed into his shoulder. Vanessa followed with her head down, refusing to make eye contact with anyone. In the days that followed, the fallout was swift. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from relatives. Cousins I had barely spoken to in years reached out to apologize. Aunts and uncles who had always believed my parents' narrative of the perfect family were reevaluating everything. I always thought you were the difficult one, Cousin Rachel texted me. Vanessa made it sound like you pulled away for no reason. I'm so sorry I believed her. The family group chat, the one where I had received that devastating message, went silent. Then it was deleted entirely. My parents found themselves quietly excluded from family gatherings. No one made a formal announcement. No one declared sides. They simply stopped being welcome. My mother called me from a new number 2 weeks after the party. I let it go to voicemail. Myra, please. We need to talk. This has all been blown out of proportion. Your father is devastated. I'm devastated. Can't we just move past this? I listened to it once, then deleted it. Forgiveness wasn't a reset button. I knew that now. It was a release for me, not for them. And I wasn't ready to release anything yet. 3 months after the party, Aunt Eleanor called. They're selling the house. I set down my coffee cup. What? Your parents. They put the house on the market last week. Word is they couldn't keep up with the mortgage payments. I should have felt something. Satisfaction, vindication, maybe even guilt. Instead, I just felt tired. Where will they go? Your Uncle Frank is letting them stay in his guest house temporarily. He made it very clear it's conditional. They need to get jobs, real jobs, not just waiting for someone else to bail them out. My parents hadn't worked full-time in years. Dad took early retirement at 55. Mom had never worked outside the home. They had been living off my money, and they hadn't even realized how dependent they had become. What about Vanessa? Can't she help? Eleanor laughed. It wasn't kind. Vanessa's been drowning since her divorce. Word got out about the party. Someone in the family knows someone in fashion. She lost a major design contract. Last I heard, she's waitressing part-time. I stared out my kitchen window at Lily and Lucas playing in the backyard. I don't want them to suffer, I said quietly. I know you don't, sweetheart. That's because you're a good person. But they didn't suffer for 8 years because you were supporting them. They didn't grow. They didn't learn. You stopping wasn't cruel. It was the most honest thing you could have done for all of you. She was right. That evening I sat down with my new budget. The $3,200 I used to send my parents every month now went into a college fund for the twins. They would never worry about student loans. They would never carry someone else's burden the way I had. That felt like justice enough. The call came on a Tuesday night, 6 months after Grandpa's party. I was putting the twins to bed when my phone lit up with an unknown number. Myra? Vanessa's voice was different, smaller. The polished confidence that had always defined her was gone. Please don't hang up. I know I don't deserve your time, but I need to say something. I sat down on the edge of my bed. I'm listening. I'm sorry. The words came out cracked. I'm so sorry for everything. For the way I treated you, for the things I said, for laughing at that text message when you were, her voice broke. When you were dying. I laughed. What kind of person does that? I waited. I didn't know, she continued. About the money. Not all of it. I knew Mom and Dad were struggling, but I thought they were managing. I didn't realize it was you. For 8 years, Myra, how did I not know? Did you ever ask? Silence. No, she whispered. I didn't. Because I didn't want to know. I liked being the favorite. I liked that everything came easy for me. She laughed bitterly. Nothing's easy anymore. Turns out your reputation matters in this industry. We sat in silence for a moment. I'm not asking for money, she finally said. Or forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. What I was. What Mom and Dad did. I see all of it. I took a deep breath. Then start from there. Stand on your own feet. Be better. Yeah. Her voice was thick with tears. I'm trying. Good. I hung up. And for the first time, I felt something like hope. 1 year after the accident that changed everything, I stood in my new apartment watching the sun set through the windows. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a small kitchen. But it was 5 minutes from the hospital, in a good school district, and most importantly, it was mine. No mortgage payments to parents who didn't appreciate them. No insurance premiums for people who called me a burden. Just rent, utilities, and a college fund growing steadily every month. Lily and Lucas were at Grandpa Thomas's house for the afternoon. He had become a fixture in our lives over the past year. Every Sunday he would pick them up for adventures, the zoo, the park, ice cream that I pretended not to know about. They're good kids, he told me once. You're raising them right. From him, that meant everything. Aunt Eleanor had become more than family. She was a friend. We had dinner together twice a month. She had helped me navigate the emotional aftermath of the party, of setting boundaries, of learning to prioritize myself. You know what I admire about you, she said recently. You didn't become bitter. A lot of people would have. You had every right to. What would be the point? I replied. Bitterness is just drinking poison and expecting someone else to get sick. As for my parents, we hadn't spoken directly, but I knew from family whispers that they were still at Uncle Frank's. Dad had gotten a part-time job at a hardware store. Mom was doing bookkeeping for a local church. They weren't thriving, but they were surviving. Some days I wondered if they thought about me, if they missed me, if they regretted anything. But those weren't my questions to answer. I had spent 34 years carrying their weight. It was finally time to put it down. For 34 years, I believed that love was something you could earn. That if I just gave enough, sacrificed enough, asked for nothing in return, eventually the people who were supposed to love me would see my value. I was wrong. Love isn't a transaction. It's not a reward for being useful. And no amount of money, time, or energy can buy something that should have been freely given from the start. The family I have now, Grandpa Thomas, Aunt Eleanor, friends like Marcus who showed up when my own parents wouldn't, they didn't love me because of what I could provide. They loved me because of who I am. That's the difference. And it took almost dying on an operating table to understand it. I don't know what happens next with my parents. Maybe someday they'll truly change. Maybe they'll reach out with genuine remorse, ready to rebuild something real. If that happens, I'll consider it. But I won't wait for it. I won't shape my life around the hope of something that may never come. My life is mine now. My energy, my resources, my love. And if the people who raised you call your self-respect betrayal, then maybe they never deserved your loyalty in the first place. To anyone out there carrying a weight that was never yours to bear, it's okay to put it down. It's okay to choose yourself. You're not selfish. You're not ungrateful. You're not a burden. You're finally free.